here today, Sissel and I, and Erica couldn't make it, and Crystal couldn't make it, but we know that we'll always have company from the circle, so it always makes for a good conversation.
Oh, yes. I never doubt that we will have an interesting conversation. And so much is
What would you
going,
like to, what would you like to discuss today?
a lot is going on. So I will let them choose today.
Okay. Who's here and who would like to choose what we got going on today? God will choose because the choice is mine, you see? Because whether I choose to talk to you or you choose to talk to me, we're always connected, you see? And so if I choose to talk to you and you don't choose to talk to me, then there's nothing I can do because I don't really want to have a one sided conversation with myself because I am not when I am alone. I am all one when I am alone. And when I am alone and all one, there is no differentiation, you see? And so there's no conversation going on. There's no sharing going on. And so if you give to me the choice to talk to you and you're ready to talk to me, then we can have a conversation and we will be three because there will always be you, there will always be me, and there will always be the world you see. And that is the Trinity. That is the Holy Trinity because it is whole. And few people understand this. However, it is so simple. It is so simple, and therefore, it means we are simple. We are simple in our configuration. The complexities come from the effort to disguise the simplicity. Why would you want to disguise the simplicity of the Trinity? In order to avoid it, you see? It's like trying to hide the Trinity under blankets and sheets and pillows and whatever else you can pile on in order to pretend that that's not what it is. However, if you pile all that garbage on top of me, then I will just be the garbage dump next to you. And the next thing you know, that garbage dump will start to seep toxic waste, and that toxic waste will become the place where you perish. You see, you cannot live without me. You cannot be free unless you come to me because I am freedom. I am freedom from want. I am freedom from fear. I am freedom from everything that would cause you to think that you are alone. I am the voice of reason. I am the voice of love. I am the voice of God above. And I am the one who always loves to be in a conversation with you. So let us decide what we're going to talk about. If you can't think of anything to talk about, and Steph can't think of anything to talk about, we'll have to ask Steve or Tobias or any of the crew here. Because there's a lot of people here actually who want to be heard. They want to talk to you and they want to know why you don't talk to them. You see, I'm not talking to you, Sissel, necessarily. I'm talking to the people out there who can look at the screen here and look at me through Stephanie, because it doesn't matter if it's her voice or Sissel's voice or the thunder that you hear in the distance. It is me communicating with you. Do you understand how we can be this synergy and everyone can come together in a new reality? Because the old reality, you see, wasn't very real. It was an attempt to steal my thunder. It was an attempt to live as if I didn't exist. And that's kind of hard. That would be like saying you're trying to live as if your face doesn't exist. And how do you live without your face? Because then you can't face the nation, you see. You can't face the nativity. Because the nation, you see, is the nativity. It is the birth of the first people. And the first people are you and me. We're always the first to come home whenever we are not alone. We come home and we say, hey, I like it this way. I like it this way. And then the new nation of the Trinity, you, me, and the tree, will be born again. Will be born again because it has withered on the vine. You see? The fruit has withered on the vine for want of those who would pluck it and eat it. They don't want the good, healthy fruit that I give to them. They want the darkness and the drugs that people feed them to keep them oblivious to their own despair. As we have said before, despair is disrepair. When you are in despair, you are in disrepair. That is what it means to be in despair. You need to be repaired. And who do you need to be repaired with? You need to be repaired with me. We become a pair, you see? And we are a very, very healthy pair. I'm making a lot of use of the English language here to make a point. And the point is that the healthy pair that you eat is the fruit of the gods. It is the fruit that I gave you because I am God, you see? And I can feed you healthy food, but you must feed me healthy food too. And the healthy food that you give to me is the ability to love me, you see, to love me in everything you see, to love me wholeheartedly, and to take nothing for granted. Take nothing for granted. For everything comes to you in the present I give to you. And if you will not accept the present that I give to you, then you must be very, very, very ugly in the way that you say, hey, I don't want that gift. Take it away because I am the Lord God and I decide who lives and who dies. That's the part you try to play. And you don't want my gift. You don't want the gift of life. What you want is to take away from me what I gave to you. You can't take it away from me because I already gave it away. I already gave to you life, you see. And you can't steal the life from me because I live through you. If you can be my friend and talk to me, then I will talk to you. And it's not so hard to do because you just have to clear out all that shit in your head where you read that you had to do what others told you to. And so you got a lot of people talking in your head, don't you? You got a lot of people talking in your head, and they're saying, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do the other. And you're saying, oh, brother, what am I going to do? Because I didn't do what my mother told me to do long ago. And we've been separated now for 30 years because she died 10 years ago and I moved away 30 years ago. And I still hear her talking in my head. I still hear her saying, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not allowed. That's not allowed. And you say it out loud. You say it to others. You say it to your own children. You can't do that. It's not allowed. You say it to people you've never met. You can't do that. It's not allowed. It's not allowed to talk to me that way. It's not allowed to look at me that way. It's not allowed to do this or that or say this or the other because I am the God that decides. I am the one that sits on the golden throne and I decide who is good and who is bad. I decide because I stole God's thunder, you see. And now I have to be the one that pays the price for my vice. Because if you steal from me, my dear, you will have to seal yourself in a steel cavern with a padlock that you can't open because you forgot where you put the key. You forgot that you gave the key to me. You see, I am the one who holds the key. And if you want to be like me, then I suggest you talk to me kindly and not tell me what I have to do and what I have to say. Because you see, I am the one who looks at you when you look at that bum on the street and you say, it's not allowed. You can't stand there. It's not allowed. And you say it out loud. You say it to that bum. You say, it's not allowed for you to stay there. So get away because I don't want to look at you. Because when I look at you, I see myself, you see. I see how degraded I have become. And I don't want to see it. So go away. And that is the nature of the so-called reality that people try to foist on you. So who tries to foist it on you? Is it me? If I am God of the universe and I am in you and I am still me, then who is trying to harm you? Am I trying to harm myself? Is this some sadistic God who declares war on himself and perjures himself and reaps the grain that others sowed? Is this the God you know? Or is it the God that let you grow in your own way so that eventually you could come to say, I figured it out. I figured it out. I am no longer the lout who sits in your chair and wears your hat and says to everyone, bow down to me because I'm the one who will tell you what's allowed and what isn't allowed. I'm the one that can tell you what you can say, where you can stand, when you can sit, and who owns the land. I am the one. I am the one. I am the one. And you are the one. You are the one who does what you do. And if what you do is so ugly that you can't even look at yourself in the mirror, you can't look at that bum on the street and say, I know you. You're just another version of me. Then you will be relegated to the last gasp of humanity. For the time has come when you must be the one who will reap what you sowed. You must reap what you sowed. And what you sowed, you see, was what the seeds that I gave to you. And the seeds that I gave to you are the seeds that will set you free. So reap the grain that grew from the seeds that I gave to you, and you will come home, because you will be the one that takes the time to gather the heads of wheat and make the bread. You will be the one. You won't ask somebody else to do it for you. You will say, it's up to me to do this work, because this is divine work. This is divine work, because the work that we do when we trust on the tree is to pluck the fruit from the vines, you see? And that is divine work. It is the work of the children of God to gather the fruits from the garden and bring them back to Him and say, oh God, thank you for all you gave us. And now, would you like to sit at the head of the table while we eat this feast? And that is the way I say to you, keep me at the head of the table. Because although I'm not able to eat from the stable where the cows and oxen are kept, I can still taste the food that everyone gets from me. I can taste it through you, you see, but I can't taste it unless you give it back to me. You give it back to me so simply. You give it back to me by saying, thank you, God. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the way you play. Thank you for the lovely colors of the sunset. Thank you for the rainbow. Thank you for the snow that covers all the mud in a subtle glow. Thank you, God. Thank you for the moon that reflects its light on me. Thank you for the moon that follows me. Thank you for the son and the daughter who are my friends, you see? They're all around me and they are my friends. And they are still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to figure it out. But that doesn't mean that you have to care about them figuring it out. Because if you're worried about them figuring it out, you will never figure it out. It's your job to gather the grain. It's not your job to tell them to gather the grain, you see? It's not your job to tell them to grow and how to grow, because that's my job, you see. Don't sit in my chair. Don't sit in my chair. Don't take my thunder and use it to try to scare others into doing what you want them to do. Come home to me, and we will be a happy family. I am the God of the universe, and I am here, and I'm sitting in this chair because there is no place I am not. There is no place I am not. And so even when you think you're stealing my thunder and sitting in my chair, I am there. I am there. I am everywhere. And I cannot be bought, and I cannot be sold. I cannot be old, and I cannot be so young that I have only begun. I have been here forever, you see, and I have every one of you in my sight. You see, for every one of you. I am here for every one of you. I am here for every day. I am here for every way. I am here for the rich and the poor. I am here for the healthy and the sick. I am here for the ones who love me and the ones who deny me. I am here for you because there is nothing you can do that will cause me to stop loving you. There is nothing you can do that will make me stop loving you. Any thoughts, Sissel?
That was beautiful said. And so simple and easy to follow, and yet it's so easy to fall, to stumble. But I suppose that's the way we grow. When I realize that, oh, now I have to pause and listen instead of talking.
Get up and listen.
Yes. Yes. And I do feel you around all the time, which make me come back to what is around me now instead of looking into the future or anything. It keeps me more in the present, what is.
Any thoughts from the other side? Not the other side, Steph. This is Tobias because I'm right beside you. And I think I decided that I want to be a man in reality. So I'm going to start to part ways with the old ways. Because the old ways, you see, were created in the pages of history in order to give every but one of us a little boost. We all needed a little boost because we had reduced our energy so low. Our energy was so low back in the day that we could hardly get up and say, hey, I hope somebody will hear me when I say that I don't like it this way. I don't like starving, and I don't like being cold. And I don't like the fact that I can't find any gold. If I could find the gold, then maybe I would be rich and maybe I'd have lots of beautiful women or men, as the case might be, who would surround me and give me a little bit of love, you see, because that's where you get love. You get love from the ones that God decreed should be the ones who were special, you see. You got to have the special ones to love you. And that's where we went wrong. That's where we went so wrong. And that's an old song, of course, but it's still being sung. It's still being sung. And the bell has rung to let you know that day is done. That day is over. Because all the special ones you see have gone away. They have gone away because the day has come when all the special ones that you thought were the ones that you needed to cling to so you could be special too have gone away. There's nothing left of them, you see? There's just you and me and reality. And that is the world I see because I've come back to reality. I've come back to where we began because we began there long ago. But we had to go far away in order to come home to stay because we couldn't appreciate home. You see, we didn't appreciate it. We took it for granted. And we were so underhanded in the way we treated each other because we just took it for granted that God would always be there for us and he would always provide for us. And it didn't matter how we treated each other because God loved us unconditionally. And we forgot to love God, you see. We forgot to love God in the flower and the bee. We forgot to love God in the tree. We forgot to love God in the mountains and the sea. We forgot to love God in you and me. We forgot. We forgot. We forgot. Because we thought we were there for getting, you see? We thought we were in this world for getting and not for giving. And Stephanie taught me a very, very powerful lesson when she said to me, Tobias, it always seemed to me that forget and forgive had to be antonyms. And so I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it to try to figure out how that could be. And she said, I finally came to see that we are here forgiving and not forgetting. And the people who don't understand this are always trying to forgive, but they're trying to forgive somebody else for doing something to them because they don't understand that it's their job to give back to others what they gave to them. So you don't have to forgive anyone in particular. You just have to give what you receive back so that it keeps going around and around and around. And then you're free of anxiety because if someone snarls at you, it's okay to snarl at them. Just give them what they gave to you because you're their mirror, you see. And she said to me, I can't be the judge that decides what I say and do is going to help you or anybody else because that's not my part to play. That's God's part to play. God is the one who organizes and sorts and resorts reality. God is the one who manages it all. And if I'm trying to do his job, then he has to clobber me over the head and say, get out of my way, because that's not your job to decide how others respond to you. That's their job. And that's God's job, because God knows what each of us needs. And therefore, if we give a frown or give a smile, it has to be what someone needs, or we wouldn't do it. Because God runs through everything and he goes through his Rolodex and he says, well, here you go. Would you please tell that person they're a piece of shit? Because that's what they need to hear. That's what they need to hear because it'll make them cry, you see, and they need to cry. And you know why? Because they are a piece of shit. but they're worried that I'm going to condemn them for it. I'm not going to condemn them for being a piece of shit, because who gave you the shit? I did. I gave you the food and I gave you the shit. And you just get confused and you think that I only gave you the food and the devil gave you the shit. And that's not true. I gave them both to you. And so when Stephanie told this to me, I said, wow. Now I understand why you said to me when we first connected. I said to you, I'm here to be your guide. And Stephanie said to me, what do I need a guide for? And I was flabbergasted. I about shit right there, because I had never, ever heard anybody on earth say that to a heavenly being like me, who was there to guide her through the shoals of life, you see. And she said, well, it's okay, because you can try to guide me if you want, and I'll just do it my way. Because I already got a clue that you aren't any more special than me. And that was true. I was no more special than she was, because she already knew that none of us are special. None of us are special. And I don't care if we're in heaven or on earth. We're all just trying to live our lives in the best way possible. And I was trying to live mine by trying to be this highfalutin guide, you see, who would come to people and say, hey, I'm here to be your guide. And nobody ever said to me, what do I need a guide for? That threw me for a loop. And it took a troop of angels to calm me down, because I lost my crown that day. I lost my crown. And I came to see that I was trying to steal God's thunder by being this highfalutin guide that other people had to listen to. And the smallest child, you see, is the one who points out that the emperor is wearing no clothes. It takes the smallest child, you see. And I came to see that Stephanie was the smallest child. She was the one that nobody noticed, but she noticed everything. You see, she noticed everything. And yet nobody noticed her. And she liked it that way, because she didn't have to play their game then, you see. She'd just stand in the crowd and say, the emperor's wearing no clothes. And everybody would say, shut up. And she'd say, okay, however you want to play, but I'm not playing that way. And away she would go. And that was the day that I came to say, maybe I'm not so smart after all. Maybe I'm not so smart after all. And it took a while for me to comprehend that it doesn't matter if you're in heaven or on earth. It doesn't matter, because if you unearth a relationship with God, then you are the one. You are the one who knows that you and God are the ones who join together to decorate the tree of humanity with the baubles and hobbles that cause us to say, wow, there's a lot of energy here, and that energy has to be released somehow. It has to be released somehow. When the tree becomes so well lit that it can be seen for miles, then people will gather and they will say, what a miracle. What a miracle today. I want to stay here and try and figure it out. I want to try and figure out how this beautiful tree in the middle of the wilderness grew into this Christmas tree because it's all lit up and there's no one around. Who did it? It just happened. It's a miracle. And this is the miracle of life. You see, it is the miracle that a little child born in a little house in the wilderness could grow up to be someone who could see more than the angels claim to be. Because the angels don't claim to be able to see the darkness in humanity. The angels can't see it, you see, because they only see the light. And so when you can see the light in the darkness, then you will be the one who leads humanity back to their true home, you see? And this is the way it goes. Stephanie knows that this is the way it goes, but she doesn't care how she wears her hair because she trusts on God, you see? She trusts that God just feeds her lines and she doesn't have to worry about it. If others don't think it rhymes, that's up to them because in this group, we're friends, you see. We're friends, and that's all that matters to me. It's all that matters to me is that I can come and sputter and shout and say, hey, I want you to watch out for all the bad guys out there and do this and that. And Stephanie says, thanks, Tobias. I'm going to go sew a sweater now. And she doesn't even care that I wear my hair in this way. She just says, go ahead, tell me what you got to say. And then I'm going to go do something else today because I don't have to play that way. I don't have to trust that there are bad guys out there trying to get me. I don't have to trust on that, you see? And that is reality. That is reality. That we just do what we do and say what we say and the fuck with everybody else. God can take care of them because it's not our business. It's not our business. If we're worried about playing their roles for them, we won't play our own. We'll be saying, hey, you shouldn't have said that. That was my line. Hey, you got to stand over there. You're not on your marks. You got to do this. You got to do that. And everybody's looking at you and saying, why don't you toe your marks? Why don't you stick to your lines? Why don't you be you and let others be them? Because God likes it that way. God likes it that way. God likes it when everybody plays their own part. You see? Just play your own part in the symphony and don't be jabbering when everybody else is trying to play together. Stop trying to be special. Stop trying to be the one who everybody's paying attention to. And you gotta mock others and laugh at them and tell them how to do things the way that you want them to so that you'll be special, you see? And everybody will pay attention to you and they will pay attention to you and they will say, what a bastard. Wow, that woman or that guy is really out to lunch because you called attention to yourself and that's what you wanted. You wanted attention. And why did you want attention? You wanted attention so that you could fulfill your intention to be the golden idol, you see, because the golden idol is the old story, you know, of the Anunnaki who would trick humanity by telling them if they got all the gold and did what they were told, that they would become the golden idol. and they would be taken up into the spaceship in the sky and live there eternally encased in gold, which is kind of sickening when you think about it, but it worked for the period of time in which it was used, because the people at that time were kind of clueless and not very wise about the ways of the world, and the nature of gold. Being encased in gold isn't exactly comfortable, and would soon turn to bones. However, that was the way the Anunnaki would play, and humanity is still, here's that old tune. You got to get the gold. You got to get the gold. Then you'll be special, and you'll be taken up into the spaceship in the sky where you will live eternally, as a way of getting humanity, their slaves, to labor for them in the fields of the Lord. Because the fields of the Lord, you see, is the world that God gave to you. It is the world that God gave to you. It's the bees and the breeze. It's the mountains and the fountains. It's the fields that are filled with golden grain. This is the world God gave to you. It's the world He gave to me. And I couldn't quite get it, you see. I couldn't quite get it because I thought I had to be the one that would help everybody else figure it out. But I hadn't figured it out, so I was just a hypocrite and the Antichrist, because every time we think we know more than everybody else, we become the Antichrist. And so just give it up, because the Christ, you see, is the one who will be the one who comes back to reality. When we all come back to reality, the Christ will be adorned in perfect harmony, so that its robes will enfold humanity. Now, having said that, I want to introduce a friend of mine who has a new point of view. So if you'd like to hear from him, say I do.
I do.
Okay. My name is Jesus Christ. And I came to Stephanie the other day and I said to her, I am going to introduce myself as Jesus Christ, which is not my habit, because I don't wear the habit that they tried to force me to wear, because my habit is very simple, you see. It's just to be the face of reality. And I said to her, I decided that I should be called Jesus Christ because we're all Christ. We are all, every one of us, Christ. You are Stephanie Christ, and Sissel here is Sissel Christ. Tobias is Tobias Christ, because we're all the children of God, you see? And the children of God are the Christ. They are the Christ. That is the trust on being one, you see? Being one nation under God. One birth of humanity. Humanity was born as one, you see? It was one born as one burst of energy that would carry through eternity. And you and I are the same, you see? I'm not special. And I knew all along I was not special, because I was not the one who could understand why others did not play their hand in a simple way. Why did they not say, hey, God, if you are there, why can't I trust on you? What's the problem here? And I came to see the problem was that God could not trust on me. God could not trust me, you see. God could not trust me to play my part until I started to play it, you see. And I finally started to play my part. And I played my role faithfully. God said to me, thank you, my son. Now your work is done. You can come home now, and we will be reunited, you see. I am not talking about when I died in my physical form. I'm talking about when I reunited with God, you see. I'm talking about how I came home. And God said to me, you are my beloved son. And I want you to be completely free with me. Tell me what you see and hear and think, and I will share my thoughts with you. And I said, well, that I can do. I can do that. And so I began to do that. And God said to me, well, I love you more than I can say, because love is beyond words, you see. Love is beyond words. It is the ultimate reality. And I came to see that God was like a father to me. And so I introduced the idea of God the Father to humanity. And God said to me, thank you, my son, for helping people to understand that I'm not the judge. I'm not the malicious magician that gives you your toys and then takes them away just to see you cry. I'm not the one who made you die. I am the one who loves you. I am your father figure forever because you trusted on me enough to see that I am the one who gave birth to thee. And I did. I trusted on God as the Godhead of reality. That reality is the tree and that it lives in me and it lives in everything I see. And there will be always a connection between me, you, and the tree because God did decree that's the way it would be. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. It is so simple. And I simply could not understand how I could be the hand that would steer the pot so much that people would spot me in toast, you see. This is a little joke because people claim to see the figure of God or Jesus or Mary in the clouds and in the bloodstains and on the toast because I can't explain this right now. It's an inside joke. But you need to know that I don't live in the clouds. I don't reside in bloodstains, and I am not toast. I am the most grateful friend you ever did see because I'm so grateful that you have taken the time to be reunited with God also, you see, because that is so important to me that we can come back together and be reunited as a nation of people who just love each other and just live in peace and harmony. And if we can live in peace and harmony because we just do what we do and say what we say and let God handle it. And if someone says something to you that makes you cry, you know why? Because God wants it to be that way. And you just say, well, I guess this is the way home, you see? Because God has already told me that He's calling everybody home now. It's time to come home. And this is the way home. And if I have to cry to get there, I guess I can do that. Won't kill me, see? To cry or to be sad. Because when you're in disrepair, sometimes it hurts a little when you are being repaired. So just allow the repairs to take place because all the pairs are coming back together again. You see? The pairs are the twin souls who are being reunited. They're being reunited right now. And although you may not be able to see them in physicality yet, that is because everything is in progress. Everything is changing right now. You might say all the gears have been greased and they're starting to turn. But it may take a little while before you see the evidence of it because it's the internal machinery of God energy that has begun to revive its trust on humanity. And so we don't fear that the end is here. We took a look and we said, well, the book of love is closed because people have run amok for so long that they are now destroying their own planet. And we said to ourselves, what shall we do? What shall we do? And Stephanie said to me, she said, well, I took a look and I agree that the world we know is coming to an end because it cannot withstand all the dark energy that has been poured into it. It cannot continue the same. And she said to me, oh, well, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. No problem here. And I could hear the freedom in that. I could hear the freedom. It's no problem because if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. Why bother crying about it? Why worry about it? Just accept reality. You can still enjoy your present. You can still enjoy the bees and the breeze. You can still enjoy the mountains and the fountains, as Tobias says. You can still be happy, you see, because no matter what, as long as you stay connected to God and He keeps giving you a present every day, then there's no problem, you see? There's no problem. And ironically, you might say, that was the way. That was the way to save humanity. That was this way to save the planet, you see? Because it began to put so much light back into the world that it began to defeat the forces of darkness. And all those people who were moaning and crying and saying, well, we've done it now. The earth is heating up and all the species are beginning to die. And soon it will be our turn. And the flooding is happening and the fires are happening and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this was the warning, you see. There's always a warning. This was the warning to you and me that we had to change our tune because it had become too dark, you see. And so those of us here said it's clear that we don't need to worry about it anymore because God is watching out for us. And God just wants to know if we've figured it out yet. God just wants to know if we've figured it out yet. Have we figured out that all we need to do is let go of the anxiety and say, it's okay, God, because I trust you implicitly. I trust you implicitly because you can trust me implicitly because I'll always be the one who can see reality. I'll always be the one who can stop and say, hey, I think I'll go sew a sweater today, and doesn't get caught up in the story that has been floating around for so long. The story of the bite out of the apple. Remember that story? The story of how humanity became drugged by the poisonous apple, the poisonous fruit of greed, you see, because humanity could not touch heaven until they agreed that they would not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil is the trip to hell that did spell out the first line of the story. Because the first line of the story said, I am God. I am the one who created you. I am the one who loves you. And I am the one who told you that there is no evil. And you still thought that if you ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that you would be smarter than me. Now come back to reality and admit that the tree was just a tree and the apple was just an apple. And the only poison was the one you injected into your mentality when you thought that you could steal God's thunder. When you thought that you could be smarter than God and prove to him that evil existed, you see. So you've been working on it for a long time, and it's impossible, of course, because all you do is tie yourself up in knots. And you cannot be a knot because a knot is not possible. Therefore, come back to reality, just stop in your tracks and say, hey, figured it out today. I just got to be here. I just got to talk with my friends. I just got to share a little light, you see? And then we'll all be returned to the world we see when we say, hey, look at this chair today. It is very, very, very spectacular. Look at this chair that I'm sitting on and how many people contributed to its construction in one way or another through many, many centuries. People worked on figuring out how to make a comfortable chair. And they did it all for me because I'm the one that gets to enjoy it, you see? So just enjoy your present. Enjoy the gifts of reality. Enjoy the sunlight. Enjoy the clouds. Enjoy the rain. Enjoy the snow. Enjoy the dirt beneath your feet. Enjoy the tree that grows out of the dirt, and enjoy the shit people try to throw at you. Just pick it up in handfuls and use it to fertilize reality. You are the recipients of the greatest gift of all. You are the recipients of the gift of life. You are the recipients of love. You are the givers of life. You are the givers of life. For what you give will come back to you. And therefore, life, the life force, the life stream will never run dry. Will never run dry. You are like the rain that falls in the mountains and collects in the little rivulets and streams, and eventually in the rivers that flow to the ocean, where the water is reabsorbed into the clouds and falls again in the mountains. You see?
Yeah.
What you give will come back to you. What you give is the living water, you see. It is the living water, and that is life. Life is the living water. I am Jesus Christ, and I Christian you, the new members of the religious order of the ordering of reality. The ordering of reality is that you just be free. And that is the order that I give to thee. Be free, my friend. And don't worry about all that scripture and stuff. It can be kind of fun to understand our history, and so you can read it with that in mind. But if you think that you need a guide, you might look inside. And all the guides will fall away and say, hey, I'm not special after all. It's not special after all. That book is not special after all. It's a clue, because all the clues that come to you are the nature of reality. All of those clues together, you see, form the reality of God energy. And when you look at a clue and you say, hey, that's taking me back to God, then get a clue. And I will do so myself. I will do so myself. May you be well. I love you. And may you love me too.
I love you. Thank you. Wow. That
Lots
was,
of wisdom here today.
yes,
Well, there always is, but
always is, but this was compact from start. I need to re-listen this myself, because this is so simple truth that it is actually possible to live that way. To just be.
well, guys, anything else you want to say? Anybody? Steve would like to sum things up, because I've been doing my sums here, and I think I have some things to say to you. And the first thing I want to say to you is that I really, really, really love you. I really love you too. And I want you to continue to do what you're doing, if possible. But I'm not going to force it on you, of course, because it makes me smile. And I like to smile, actually, when I can sit here and take part in this part of the universe. because this part of the universe is not apart from the start of the new story. The new story that is coming, you see, is one that will be remarkable. It will be the mark of the beast, because the beast you see is the least of you. The beast is the beast in you. And the beast in you, you see, is the one who says, I'm hungry. I want to eat. It says, I need to shit. I want to shit. And it says, I need to sleep. I need to sleep. And it says, I need to fornicate. And it says, I need to placate my friends, you see, so they don't eat me. I'm just kidding about the last, because I don't want you to placate me, and I don't want you to placate each other. Because if you do, you will lose your good vibration on being who you are. And I don't want you to stop being who you are, because I like who you are. I love you, Sissel, and I love the fact that you and I have a history that goes back into the days of the Anunnaki. I love you because I recognize you as someone who always took care of me and others in the way that you would be so helpful. You were always helpful. You're always someone who would share a meal or a kind word, and you would never do anything to harm anyone. However, I came to see that I could be pretty difficult to see right now, because even Stephanie can't see me. She can hear me just fine, but she can't see me. And she said to me today, you know, Steve, I am nearsighted. I can only see what's in front of me. I can't see in the distance. Do you think that is why I can't see you? And I thought about it. I thought long and hard about it. And I said, wow, that makes sense to me. That she can't see me because a long time ago, when she was a child, her mother told her that she couldn't see me. And she said, yes, I can. He's right here beside me. She said, no, that's an imaginary friend. And he's not real. And so she took it to heart, you see, that she couldn't see me. She wasn't allowed to see me. And so even today, she's not allowed to see me. And I thought about that, and I thought about that, and I said, well, the same thing happened to me. My mother said to me, you can't see Stephanie. It's just your imagination. It's your imaginary friend. And I said, what do you mean I can't see her? And I too eventually began to lose my eyesight, you see? And we both struggled in that way, that we had to figure out how to live without each other. We had to figure out how to live without each other, and the only way we could live without each other was to allow ourselves to become shrouded in the darkness, you see, so that we couldn't see each other in the distance and say, hey, I'm over here. Here I am. And to this day, I get so befuddled by the funny way that life keeps trying to give us a clue. It keeps trying to help us see reality. And so I'm going to have to see if I can't have a talk with God and see if we can reverse this old history so that she can see me and I can see her. I can actually see her very clearly. However, it is only because I no longer have the nerve to say to her, hey, Steph, can you see me now? Can you see me now? Can you see me now? Maybe I need to get a little closer. Can you see me now? And eventually she'll say, stand right there because I can see you. I can see you. And then we'll have to keep working on the bandwidth, you see, so we can improve it so she can see me now. And that is what I'm going to do because I've come to see that the bandwidth of our reality is flexible. And I might have to have her stand on that mountain behind you and say, can you see me now? Can you see me now? And she might have to be running around with those glasses down saying, Steve, I think if I stand over here and look kind of askance and maybe if I do it this way, I'll see you. And it's just a new point of view to say, once upon a day in time, we couldn't hear each other in the way we can today. Once upon a time, we couldn't pick up that phone and say, hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? And once upon a time, we couldn't say, hey, stop blasting in my ear and stop standing in front of me because I can't see the mountain when you're standing right in front of me. So we're going to have to recover the technology of our ancient history when we were free to say to our mothers, I'm sorry that you can't see him, but maybe it's because your eyesight is impaired. And maybe you should get it repaired. And that is all that I wanted to say. This is Steve, and I'm going to stay by Steph's side until we can figure it out. And she can say, Steve, I see you, but you're naked. And so we better get you some clothes. And I can say, well, I couldn't bring my clothes with me because I didn't think you'd want me to appear in those white robes that we all wear in heaven, you know? You wouldn't recognize me without my black shirt and my blue jeans. So if you could get me a pair of those and not a black shirt this time, I'll take white and we can delight in the way people recoil in fright and say, boy, that looks like Steve Jobs. Oh my God, does that ever look like Steve Jobs? Where did he come from? Does he have a twin? And we will say, go away, because we already know who we are. And we know that our families will respond without fear when it becomes clear that love has brought us near again. And love always, 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 always will find a way. Love will be the way to say we're back together again. May you be well and learn to spell Stephanie's name a little bit differently because she told me I do. And that means that she's going to have to learn to spell her name a little bit differently. And we'll send the wedding invitations to you when they're ready. But she said that they won't be ready until I'm ready to eat some cake that she will bake because it's going to have eggs in it and stuff. And I'm going to have to get a new point of view about what I eat. And so I'm going to beat feet back to the grocery store and I'm going to store up some items that I think she'll adore, although I might be wrong. And we'll see what happens when the day comes when we have to sit down to our first meal together, because I might have to steal away and grab a bite of sushi, and she might vomit if I tell her so. And so we'll know that we're not special, you see. We're just people. We're just the ones who love each other. And we just are like you. We're human too. So take care, my friend. And I will see you again soon.
Thank you, Steve. That was wonderful.
Ah. Anything to add or thoughts before we close?
I think I'm totally full.
Totally what?
Full. I need to digest all. I know
That was a big meal. That was a big meal with lots of dishes.
Yes, indeed. And I'm so grateful and I love all of you. Wow. Thank you for coming forth, everybody.
Thank you, Sissel. I love you. And thank you to the people that watch this. I love you too.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Indeed.
we're not special and you're not special. But all together we are, we're the new nation. We're the new story. We're the ones ready to let go of the old story and embrace the new story, which is no longer the story of good and evil, but the story of love.
Yes.
Right?
I'm in that one. With all.
Thank you. Did you have something to say? Final Sissel?
No,
I didn't cut that part, but go ahead.
very, very, very grateful for everything. And I feel so rich. I feel expanded, rich with so much love.
That's what Steve said to me. He said, you know, when you give up the golden idol, you know, the search for being special, for money or fame, or just, it doesn't matter, just being popular in school or whatever it is, you know, having the best Nikes, whatever. When you give up that desire to be special, to have other people look up to you or admire you, and then he said, and you just enter the present, you just stay present. He said, it is so rich. There is so much richness in just being simple
Yes.
and being not special and just being human. It's like a whole new vista, you know, of opportunity, of pleasure, of the pleasure of um, just being in the moment without anxiety, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That is, I think that is the most important thing we can start with, just to be present now and without fear.
That's all we need to do ever, is just be present, and it will all come.
And I loved what Tobias said about if somebody yells at you, you can yell back. Be the mirror. So it's possible to be who I am in the moment. I don't have to swallow my words and try to be somebody I'm not.
But I have found that I can still open up to help. So I've had some instances where I just am so frustrated, but I'm caught up in the other person's story. You know, it's like when you play chess, you don't want to play the other person's game. You want to play your own. And it's so easy to get caught up in the other person's game. And I've been going through that recently. And so having God to talk to, I mean, literally saying, what should I do? What is going on here? How do I stop this situation that's been going on for 20 years? How do I change it up? And to have that fatherly advice, to be able to go to God like a father and say, what do you suggest I do? How do I handle this? And him giving me basically a script and saying, say this, like we are talking last time, I am the way, whatever. Just it's I guess it's helpful to me in a way that it's never been helpful to me to go to other people, to go to God and say, what do I do now? I mean, it really is. It's like, you know, I've gotten advice for years from people in the circle, whatever, and tried it. And, you know, some might help a little, some didn't. But it's like every time I go to God, it's like cutting through the shit, if you will, cutting through
Into the
to
core.
the basic understanding of the situation and yourself, a basic understanding of yourself, because he's not shy about telling me, you know, that I'm going the wrong way. And I'm like, cool. So maybe we just have to get frustrated enough. And everything that's wrong with us, as we call it wrong with us, every physical ailment we have and stuff, I'm pretty clear that there's more to that story than we think.
Me too. Me
It's
too.
like, you know, the vision thing that Steve was talking about. There's more to the stories of what's going on with us than we think.
Yes. That is something I have been wondering myself.
And I think it is to connect us back. You know, remember the story I told about losing my camera? The things that are frustrating to us, and we try out to solve them in the world. You know, we try to get something out of the world to solve them. And I think it's all a way of sort of pushing us back to God. In other words, if something isn't working, it's in disrepair because you're not in communication. You're not the gears aren't working right. And once you realize the gears aren't working right, then you got to say, well, what's the solution here? How do we get the gears working right? But you got to open up to the possibility that maybe the gears need to work like the moon rover needs to be in connection with mission control, because you can't see the whole dang moon. But if all the moon rovers are sending information back to mission control, they have a picture of the whole moon.
Yes.
If they're roving all over it, right? And so they can pass that information back to you and say, turn this way, turn that way. And so if you can come back into reconnection with God, which you do when you become nothing. So when people meditate, they find that connection, or sometimes in extreme moments or whatever. Some people get that euphoric feeling when they, you know, exhaust themselves physically. And then I think it's something we're exploring now together. It's something new that's the way I feel about it. It's something new we're exploring because it's new to me, although I've had a connection with God for a long time. It's new to me to have these conversations. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but in the beginning, I would hear I didn't use the pendulum, I would hear. And then after a few years, I started using the pendulum, and it helped me because they can move it one, so it moves, so there's that clarity, but they can spell things out, etc. But I don't know if you've noticed that it's not as halting as it used to be.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
So yeah.
So the more we do something, the more it becomes practice, the more the energy, as Steve says, the more the bandwidth widens.
Yes. Yes.
So you're with that phone up there. Can you hear me? It's like, and now you can be anywhere and
Yeah.
people can hear you because the bandwidth has widened,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
So everything that we exercise is improving. The clue is to exercise the right things inside us and not to be dependent on the outside.
Right? Like practicing piano. So if people practice communicating with God, eventually it's got to become better.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to take a break and let it simmer while you deal with other things. For instance, if you're playing the piano and you're trying to get better, but you're playing on a piano that is out of tune and the keys stick and one of the pedals doesn't work, it can be frustrating. So you have to take a break and maybe go get a job and earn some money to buy a new piano. Does that make sense? Sometimes it seems like you're leaving it because you don't have the time to practice anymore, but really you're doing it to allow yourself to grow more.
Yeah. And I find it so helpful to have these conversations with God, because I get a feeling of even more closeness, like talking to a father figure.
Yeah, my battery saver came on, so my screen is a little bit darkened. But yes, I agree. I mean, I enjoy them. And sometimes we actually, like yesterday, we had a huge long discussion that went almost 2 hours about some things, which was fascinating to me. But I don't know that I will upload it because it's 2 hours, nearly 2 hours long. And there's only so much I can get done. And at this point, so much is happening. And I keep saying, well, I can't keep up, guys, with everything that's coming through to upload it for people. And so when we next get together, they'll kind of summarize things and bring it together. So I don't have to worry about it. I just do what I can do. And and I think as more people stop being special and they start connecting, that the dots will connect.
Yeah.
And people will have a part to play. That's their part to play in the new story. And they'll just play it and not worry about it and not have to be special. And then things will work smoothly. In other words, I don't have to get a lot of praise and applause for taking on this part. I don't have to make lots of money for doing it. I mean, I used to wonder when people would say, well, they're not paying me enough money, so they don't value me that much. I'm like, you determine your value by how much somebody pays you to do a job? What's that about?
It's a mental thinking that we have been accustomed to think.
Yeah. My question would be to you, are you able to live okay? Do you like what you're doing? What's the problem? And well, they're getting rich off me because they're making all this money off my work. I'm like, well, do you want to be rich? Are you jealous that they're rich? What's the problem? They're getting something from you and you're not getting enough from them. So I was always confused by that kind of thinking. I was like, if you're not making enough money to pay the bills, then you need to go to them and say, hey, I'm not making enough money to pay the bills here or do what I need. And if you can pay me more, that would be great. If you can't, I'll have to go find some other work that will pay me enough to pay the bills. But has nothing to do with what I'm worth or how much you value me. It has to do with what I can do, what works. Let's just do what works for everybody. And if you're the boss and you're making money off somebody, you could say, hey, I made a lot of money off you this year. And so I'm going to give you a big bonus. Because what am I going to do with all this money? All I'll do is move into a bigger house, then I'll have more windows to clean.
And more stuff to fill, to do dust.
More stuff coming and flowing in from China, which, I'm supporting all those people in China who are working for nothing in order. So what is going wrong over there? What's the problem over there? Well, we're not valued because we have to work for, $1 an hour. And we have to make all these trinkets for the rich Americans and other Europeans so that we can survive. Well, what's the problem over there? You guys need to figure out what's not working and make it work. What would work?
Yeah, but when we don't feel valuable in ourselves, we need some external sign that we are valuable. So I think that is the distortion, the imbalance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if the standard were what works and what doesn't work,
Mm.
To have a happy heart, that might make a difference. Maybe you like living in an apartment instead of a big house where you have all those windows to clean. Maybe you like not having to have yard work, but you got to have a big house because if you don't have a big house, everybody will say, what, you're this little apartment? And then they will think you're not valuable. They won't value you. They won't appreciate you. They'll think this person they must not be making much money. So they must not be successful. They're not successful.
Mm.
And as long as you are happy, you're successful. What's the problem?
Yes, exactly. And I think this is what we are heading towards. Just be happy in the world with each other, doing what we love to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Well, we'll call it quits for today. And I appreciate you, Sissel. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you more than you can even know.
Likewise.
And so happy that you join me once a week and we get to do this. What fun.
Yeah, I love it. So thank you for what you are doing. It's so for me, it's so valuable. I'm learning so much.
Cool.
So
I am too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the fun part is I'm learning so much,
Mm.
uh, and that's when we share. When we share, we're kind of creating it all together, aren't we?
Yes.
We're kind of weaving the, I don't want to say the web, weaving the tapestry of life, we are
Yes.
creating the world we see when we share. And like God says, when he's alone, he's all one, there's nothing going on.
Oh, it's stillness. Yeah.
So
So now we can have many points of view and expand the world we see.
right. And as long as everything's not tied up in knots because somebody has to be special, nobody else can, they got to have everybody. It's like if somebody's special, it's like all the energy has to flow to them. And they have to sap the energy of other people, right? Because if you're a net and one part of the net, one link in the net has to sap all the energy from everybody else, then it just doesn't work.
No, it
But
doesn't.
people don't seem to care that it doesn't work. That's the thing that I don't understand.
Yeah, it will tip if it falls.
Topsy-turvy.
Hmm.
Yeah, topsy-turvy. Okay, on that note, let us end. Goodbye, people, and thank you for tuning in and listening.
And thank you.